So the commissioners and the directors of the Integrity Commission finally appeared before a Parliamentary Oversight Committee. What happened? Going to be showing you what happened. Also going to be giving you my commentary on the sitting, what this one said, what that one said, what I thought about it overall. So make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dionne Jackson-Miller. So just for context, this is the first time that the commissioners, and in particular the chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Seymour Panton, is the first time he's appearing before a parliamentary committee to discuss the work of the Integrity Commission. So it's a big deal, all right? It's an especially big deal given the fire that the Integrity Commission has been coming under in the past few weeks since tabling an investigation report on the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. But really and truly, the Commission has been under attack, I would say, certainly for the past couple of years. So it's against that background that retired Justice Seymour Panton now came to speak. Let's listen to what he had to say. In this clip you're about to see, he's rejecting this idea that the Commission is partisan.
The commissioners have noted over the past couple of years that remarks have been made that the Commission is partisan and that the Commission, that there is malice in its operations. The persons who made those statements know that it is not true. They know that we know it is not true. And they know that Jamaicans know that it is not true. There's a situation where 70% of the persons on the voters list do not vote. And it is startling that it could be suggested that the 5 commissioners happen to be partisan. So we reject that. We have on record from no one higher than the Prime Minister that in 2020 he commended the Commission in our Anti-Corruption Day celebration. He said, under the leadership of Chairman, the Honorable Mr. Justice Seymour Panton, the Commission continues to distinguish itself, operating without fear or favor in pursuit of a just and corruption-free society. That was 2020. In 2022, he said that the Commission has done an outstanding job in increasing awareness and understanding of the anti-corruption framework. And as recently as December last year, he said, I am therefore pleased to note its work to expand public sensitization programs and improve investigative performance and technical proficiency, all of which represent a comprehensive approach to addressing corruption. I also commend the Commission's efforts to strengthen awareness and compliance, as well as its dedication to improving responsiveness.
All right, so nothing we heard there is very unexpected. I mean, you have to bear in mind, I think a lot of people don't actually know the resumes of the directors and the commissioners. These people have extensive, extremely impressive resumes, right? And they have now been under attack, as I said, sustained attack for quite a while. They've been accused of not doing their job properly, not being professional because of politics. That is not going to be an easy thing for anybody to accept and swallow. And I think we heard there Justice Panton doing what we expected he would do, which is a very strong defense of his organization. I would say there's also a subtext there in relation to the Prime Minister and what he said about the Integrity Commission, because Justice Panton there was quoting from various statements made by the Prime Minister, which, statements sounded very lavish in praise in relation to the work of the Integrity Commission. And those statements seem to have stopped just about at the point where the investigation into Mr. Holness's statutory declarations had started, And a lot of the back and forth between him and his lawyers and the commission began and were continuing, which we now know based on the timeline set out in the investigation report. So I would say, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that also emerged from the statement that Justice Panton was making. Let's go back.
As regards some other statements made in this room about giving orders, the Commission takes orders from no one other than the court. And I hope, Mr. Chairman, that the persons who were making those statements, that they will desist, because it fuels, such statements fuel a sort of mood among sycophants. And in the kind of society in which we live, we need to understand that persons should be very careful of what they say. There is a member of parliament who was actually, Mr. Chairman, sent out a document with the photographs of 4 of us saying that we are bringing down the government. Now, in this climate, for a member of parliament to be doing that, it's reprehensible. And I have not heard any parliamentarian condemn it.
Okay, so I kind of sensed when Justice Panton was saying that the commission takes orders from nobody except the court, a little bit of attitude there, like, okay, who are you to say this? In fact, what Justice Panton was doing was quoting from the act that set up the Integrity Commission. It literally says in section 6.3 that in exercising its powers and performing its functions under the act, the commission shall not be subject to direction or control of any other person or authority other than the court by way of judicial review. So all he is saying is repeating what is in the act, except he didn't quote the act, which they actually usually do. And I have to tell you, sometimes when I hear the parliamentarians talking about the Integrity Commission, I wonder if they've actually read the act. I don't know. Yeah, we also, though, heard Justice Panton expressing disappointment that with some of the kinds of statements that have been coming out of parliamentarians, that he's saying we're the political leaders in terms of condemning those kinds of statements. And I would say that the vast majority, if not all, of the severe criticism has been coming, in fact, from government members. So he's saying, where's the leadership to say, on a can't say something there, Let's go back to Justice Panton.
So I trust that folks will realize that the reports that we send from the Integrity Commission, they are reports of facts. There are factual statements in the reports. Of course, there are recommendations attached to the reports which the law allows. The law says that the Director of Investigation may make recommendations. The recommendations that are made, the Parliament need not follow them. In fact, the Parliament in Jamaica has a history of recommendations being made by people who make reports, Commission of Inquiry, and the recommendations are ignored. So we understand that, and we should not really have a situation where we are being pilloried for doing what the legislation allows.
All right, so again in that clip, you heard Justice Panton again defending his organization. But there's something he said that we really shouldn't overlook, even though he said it with a kind of very wry kind of smile or laugh when he said, look, All we're doing is what the law tells us to do. We do these reports. He's saying there are facts in the report. He also said there are recommendations, but he says, as we know, a lot of these recommendations aren't acted upon by Parliament anyway. And that's really not something we should overlook, because it actually is a disgrace. We set up these organizations to oversee the work of the executive, right? The work of government. And then when they do that work and they say, these are the things you need to do to make government better, Parliament, by and large, ignores them. We saw them previously with the Contractor General's report. Those reports from Mr. Chris used to look like so, and they used to have reams of recommendations in them, and report after report would be saying, look, we've made these recommendations before, they haven't been followed, we think they're important, we're making them again. We're seeing it with the Integrity Commission, and we've seen it as well with, for instance, the Office of the Auditor General. Some of the recommendations that that office makes are implemented, but many are not. And really and truly, what it means is that we're fooling ourselves about these checks and balances we're putting in place. So it's like, okay, put in place this office, box checked. We can say we've done that, but when it comes to actually making use of the office and putting into effect some of what we're being told to do, all of that is being ignored. And we heard Justice Panton, as I said, reference it, and I know a lot of people just move past it. We really shouldn't, because it's not good.
If it is thought that anyone in the commission is leaking these reports, we would like it brought to our attention, would like it investigated, because anybody in the commission who leaks, if it's an employee, instant dismissal. But I find it strange that that all these things would be leaked immediately after it leaves the commission and sent to Parliament. I find it puzzling to understand, if it is happening from the commission, why is it that it is delayed? The leak is delayed until it is sent away from the office. I cast no aspersions.
So on the issue of leaks, I'm going to part company here with Justice Panton, and I'll tell you why. It's not because I'm going to say I know where the leaks are coming from. I have no idea. That's not my point. I'm just saying I don't think his reasoning entirely holds up, because he seems to be suggesting that why is it that the leaks only happen after the reports leave the Office of the Integrity Commission? Well, I would say this, and again, I am, as he said, not casting aspersions on anyone. I don't know. I'm just saying, though, if you're in the Office of the Integrity Commission and you want to leak the report, why would you leak it then and there? Because at that point, you have a much smaller group of people who have access to the report. It's going to be much easier to try to figure out who leaked. So it would make more sense if you're in the Integrity Commission office and you want to leak, to wait until it has gone out to a larger pool of persons, then you leak. I'm not saying that's what happened. All I'm saying is that I don't think, as I said, his reasoning on that point, that the logic and the reasoning entirely stands up. That's all I'm saying. And in fact, the President of the Senate, Tom Tavares Finson, issued a statement on that issue of the leaks. And let me tell you a bit of what he said in that statement. Now, according to Senator Tavares Finson, he says Justice Panton misled Parliament when he suggested that information from the Commission leaks only after it's sent to Parliament. He said that isn't so. He said there was an instance in November 2023 when details concerning an alleged probe by the Commission were reported on in extensive detail by the Gleaner before any report was sent to Parliament. He said in another instance, an opposition member of Parliament recently used a political platform to, according to Senator Tavares Finson, in a most vulgar manner, predict the tabling of a report by the Integrity Commission. Let's go back now to Justice Panton.
Back on this question of malice. I have been a lay preacher in the Methodist Church for decades. Malice is not in my makeup, and it is not in the makeup of the commissioners. And there may be persons who need to repent. And They can join me at church, Providence Methodist, any Sunday. I don't know if something is wrong with the water in Parliament, why some people, the moment they get into Parliament, they say certain things and behave a certain way. I don't know if that is it. As a result, I wasn't going to take the chance of drinking any water here. Another feature, Mr. Chairman, which I'm very serious about, is that because of what has been happening, I personally intend to see if I can meet with Senator Longmore, Doctor, to have a word with her, because it may well be that she needs to have a word with some members of the House.
Now, in case you don't know, Dr. Longmore is a consultant psychiatrist. So he's implying there that he wants to talk to her about the need for some kind of evaluation, psychiatric evaluation of some or all of the parliamentarians. Now, this again, these statements did not go down well with the Senate president. So he said retired Justice Panton's comments, where he questioned whether there is some contamination of water consumed by parliamentarians and further recommended psychiatric evaluation of parliamentarians. He said those comments are rude, disrespectful, offensive, and out of order. Now, Justice Panton doesn't need my advice. You know, he is retired president of the Court of Appeal. He's an eminent jurist. He's accomplished in many, many ways. He doesn't need my advice. I'm going to give it anyway. The appearance before that Parliamentary Oversight Committee should have been treated as venturing into hostile territory. That's actually what it is. In those kinds of circumstances, I don't think you should be doing any kind of joke, any kind of tongue-in-cheek reference, any kind of comment that could be misconstrued and then used against you. And that is what is happening now. I think what Justice Panton should have done is just play it straight down the middle. I understood him to have been saying that he was perhaps surprised and disappointed at some of the comments that were being made by parliamentarians after being elected to office. Say that. Say that strongly. Say strongly how disappointed you are and how you're concerned about the fact that this is coming from elected representatives in the government. But don't do what you just did. You know, that's not something I would advise. And I think what it has done is unnecessarily serve to distract from some of what he and his colleagues were saying in that Parliamentary Oversight Committee. It's given your detractors more ammunition with which to use against you. Now, having said that, I strongly suspect that Justice Panton, at this stage in this process with the Integrity Commission, with, he having to shore up his staff and tell them don't retreat, don't back down, as we saw recently reported in the Gleaner, for instance, in a memorandum to staff, I think he is at the stage right now where he has 0 Fs left to give. I think his box of Fs is completely empty, and at this point, he no business, he no care, he might go say what he want to say, because he's over all of this. This is a retired justice who could be in another territory now, earning US dollars, sitting on the bench, respected, not having to deal with the kind of nonsense he's now having to deal with. And I think he's just at the stage where he's no business again. He probably intends to just walk away, perhaps not too long from now, and in just no business at this point, and he's just going to say what he wants to say. I think that's what we saw. So the chairman of the Oversight Committee is Ed Bartlett, and I have to say, I think Ed Bartlett is a very good chair, especially in a situation like this. He has a very good tone, Even when he's expressing concern with the tone of Justice Panton, it wasn't in any kind of hostile or adversarial way. I think he brings down the temperature of the room. He helps to calm down the proceedings. And overall, I think he did a really good job presiding. Let's listen into a little bit of what he had to say in response to Justice Panton.
I heard your very extensive statement, and the tenure tone of it, which gives concern to this chair, and I'm sure to the committee. We want to ensure that not just you, but the commission understands that there is no determined effort to undermine or otherwise to stigmatize and or categorize any member in any negative or derogatory way.
Okay, you see what I mean about the tone, you know? All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Now, the committee meeting was 3 hours long. Don't worry. I'm not going to do video showing you all 3 hours, but I am going to do at least one, maybe 2 more, showing you some of the key exchanges and what I thought about them. I thought there was a particular member of parliament who at time asked some good questions, and at time his questions were not so good. He would start out with a good question and then it would go downhill. You know, I thought he was adversarial at times unnecessarily, but showed an interesting change of tone at certain points, and I'll take you through what I mean. I also think there are questions that the Integrity Commission directors declined to answer that they should have answered. Again, this nonsense about the sub judice rule and what it stops you from doing. I don't think it stopped them from answering the questions that were being asked, which they decided not to answer, saying, you know, the matter is before the court. But when we get to that part of the video, I'll break it down for you and tell you exactly what I mean. So I have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for watching. Do remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video as well with somebody you think might be interested. I'll see you next time. I'm Dionne. Thanks again for watching.